Watcher people, welcome to this week's MYGA session. All right, everyone all right, are they? Everyone's good? Are you really? Are you sure? You're not sure, are you? It's kind of like always now, isn't it? Like, how are you? You know, 1 minute I'm all right, next minute, it's on me again. You have to bear with me tonight because I'm doing everything myself, which means there's a lot going on my screen, as well as all your beautiful faces. All right then. Do you know what? This is a subject very close to my heart, as you might have gathered. I like to say what I fucking feel. Do you know that? I really do. And I know that it's in itself, it's a revolution. People fucking hate me for it. But I always feel like, well, that's very flattering. Thank you very much. You should try it sometime. If you can find your bollocks anytime this lifetime, you might want to use them. When I say bollocks as well, I'm metaphorically speaking, ladies, just so none of you get the ump with me and saying I'm being gender specific or any of those new buzzwords we like to throw around these days. Do you know what the thing for me is that there's different types of communication, right? We've got for me, first and foremost, the priority would be that I want to make sure I've got my own house in order. All right. I want to make sure that within the relationships that I truly, truly care about, the ones that I'm invested in, the ones where I feel love for that person, for that being, then they're the relationships that I want to speak from my heart. I want to speak truthfully. And that's a great place to start, right? Because I think once you've done that, because that's the hardest bit, isn't it? That's where all our attachment is. That's where all of the emotion resides. That's where all of our history and our experience and all of the stuff that's made up these relationships, and they're deep and they're meaningful. And we've got history together and we've got shared experience and we've been through it. And somehow we still can't talk to each other. Somehow we can't say what we want to say. And I actually think once you've mastered those relationships that are incredibly valuable to yourself, or to me, to us, then I think the other relationships outside of the ones that we care about, when you're just in the world, you don't give a fuck even more then. And that's, again, we can apply some of that stuff to how we go out into the world. But to begin with getting our own important relationships to a level of real transparent and honest communication. And it's funny, right? Because I've done lots of talks about this before in the past, and I've done workshops on it. It's a challenging thing for people, you know. And from my own experience, I mentioned it before, recently, is that, you know, like when you come into this feeling of power for the first time, because look, if we just take like the very quickly, we just go through, summarize, like, why do we lose our voice? We're all born with a voice, right? We're all born with this incredibly potent energy that can materialize itself vocally for us to be able to communicate and to be able to say how we feel. I mean, like, there's loads of other factors and variables involved in communication, but one of the biggest ones that we use consistently is our ability to talk to one another. Maybe we should all just shut the fuck up. See how that goes. Maybe that's the answer. Just shut it. So that's what tonight's call is going to be. Just fucking silence, all right? Everyone just shut up. I've had enough. But that's where we're at. We're at a place where we are communicating vocally, verbally. And if we look very quickly at our history as we come into this world, like, we're robbed at birth. of empowerment for not just ourselves, but also our parents are robbed of our birth. Most of us, you know, some of us might be going, people are shaking their heads going, hold on a minute, mate, I was a home birth, fucking. But most of us, when I'm talking about most, I'm generalizing like the most people in the world, right? And then we go into our education systems, which are pretty much indoctrination aimed at conditioning us to a certain way of mind to be good little citizens, good little slaves, go about our business quietly and don't upset anyone, and to answer to external authority. And very often the people that do very well in education are the ones that do as they're told. And I'm not listening. There might be people on this call being like, oh shit, I've got a degree. He's talking about me. Oh fuck. There's many people out there who've got degrees and stuff like that, but like you know that is the thing, right? Is that like if you want to excel in that chosen subject, you just get on with what you're told to do and you do everything they ask of you and you pass. That's it, pretty much, in a nutshell. And then we go into the workplace, and then it's the same thing again, isn't it? Is that you've got to keep your mouth shut. You can't have any fucking opinions. You do as you're told. You get your money, and then you can fuck off home, and that's it. So where in any of these sort of what we would say is like normal areas of society, where is there a place for us to be able to speak, like actually say what we want? Especially now when you go into the like, there's this council culture going on in the world as well. Like no one is allowed to have an opinion that might just be against the official narrative for the fear of offending someone. Well, I'm telling you, if you're offending someone, then fucking well done. Because what kind of mad, sterile world, right, would we be inhabiting if we're going to say things, our true opinions, our true values from our heart, and no one's going to be offended? What kind of fucking values are they? Like, I mean, they've been proper sugar-coated, haven't they, if they're not going to offend anyone? Like, that would be like a PR campaign. Everyone's sitting there in marketing suite going, well, how can we just say what we really want to say? We want to say it so no one's going to be upset. No one can be upset anymore. And all the brands in the world, that's what they do. They sit, I've done it. I've worked in the industry for years. This is what the psychology is of modern branding. Is that they're absolutely terrified of anything edgy, anything raw, anything natural. So they all sit around and be like, we really want to look cool, but we don't want to offend anyone at the same time. And you just, if you just come from the space of being like, well, let's just say what we want to say. Let's start there. What do we want to say? What are we trying to get across? Funny. Sorry, every now and again I catch something out the corner of my eye. I mean, this is the world we inhabit, right? Is that so? We've got all of this stuff going on. So, like, where are you allowed to have an opinion during any of that? And then we enter into our relationships, all right? And then there is this very often there is a blockage on real communication in our very close relationships sometimes as well, because we've got like often polarized opinions on stuff. I mean, that was amplified. It was like fucking polarized opinions on steroids during the pandemic. And we're still dealing with the fallout from that now because, like, let's be honest, like the pandemic, it really did show people, like it made you really see who people are, didn't it? To a certain degree. Even there's people I still love and respect to this day who chose a different path to me. There's still a part of me that just goes like, yeah, I don't want to be in the foxhole with that cunt, you know? If I'm looking around in the foxhole and they're going, I don't know what to do. And we're going like, come on, let's go. Over we go again. And this is the issue is that once we find in these relationships that we've got a very, very different opinion, what do we do? Do we say, oh, see you later then? We don't agree anymore. Fuck off. Because that's not right either, is it? I actually feel, and what I've learned, because during the pandemic, as you can imagine, I ruffled not only the feathers of many, many people around the world with the wonderful medium of social media, but I also ruffled a lot of my very close friends' feathers. I rattled my mum and dad and their partners and most of my family. And so when you step into that power, right, because like everyone else, right, I went through the same birth, same schooling system, same jobs, never really found that I had a voice. I was always quite a mouthy bastard. I always stood up for myself, but it was very much in an East London boxing vibe, which is not really conducive of fair, balanced, controlled, relaxed, calm communication. It's more like, shut up, bosh. And that really doesn't serve anyone in that situation. And so all of a sudden, like, you come into this power and you start to be like, well, I really, really now I've got these very, very strong core principles. These are my non-negotiables, right? This is the stuff that I fucking stand on. This is the hill I die on, all right? And I think that's fair to have that feeling, right? Is that these are the things these are non-negotiable for me. Right? I ain't rolling my sleeve up for no one, and I ain't pulling my pants down for no one. And I think once you arrive at that, this stuff is who you are, right? That becomes who your character is. These my values are who I am. That's my word. And so all of a sudden, if the people that you love are challenging that, that can be a very confrontational space, a space with a lot of conflict. And I have to be honest, if I could go back in a time machine now to 2021, I would do things, I would speak differently, I would hold myself differently, I would do so many things differently because I burnt a hell of a lot of bridges. And I didn't do it in a particularly kind or compassionate way. I'd done it with fire and brimstone. And fire and brimstone's great sometimes. But what I've learned is we can still have that energy, that passion of fire and brimstone, because at the end of the day, fundamentally, it is just passion, right? It is just energy, sorry. It is energy. That's all it is, right? We just got to see these things as energy. It's how we use it is telling. And for me, I used it in a way that was like full of aggression, which was a reaction to my sadness, to my disbelief, and it came out sideways, like a grenade. And now I'm older and wiser, or have you know. Now I've got to the place where I can still feel all that stuff. Feel it very, very much. But I'm able now to be present with it, to take a deep breath, to put my feet on the floor, to feel grounded, and to be able to have a conversation. Sometimes the conversations escalate, I'll be honest, still to this day. Sometimes I'm still feel like there's certain subjects that charge me. However, most of the time, I feel like in my life now, whether it's with my close family and friends, people I care about, or it's out in the open, because of course I get challenged a lot. If it's not through social media, it's out when I'm just wandering around sometimes. People want to know what I think, or they want to challenge what I've said. And the whole way that I deal with that now or articulate myself has changed. And that doesn't feel like it's taking any more power away from me because I'm not screaming and shouting and ranting. In fact, it feels like it's giving me more power. Like I would say that it's now it's transmuted from all of this into quite a calm, dignified way of speaking. And look, it takes time, doesn't it? Like I remember certain situations where like I could feel that my voice was breaking because I was like in a situation where I had to communicate, and it was so difficult for me that my voice was breaking, and I could feel myself stuttering and muttering, and I was getting hot, and my hands were sweating. And I know, like looking back at that, I know that was a process, right? That was just a process that I had to go through because I was honing such a dormant part of myself, a part that had never been heard, a part that never had the channel of expression. And the only expression it had, it came out in such a undignified, indignified way that now there's something happening which is, it just feels so much more liberating because I'm able to say exactly how I feel. Because that's the thing about anger, right? Is that this is why I get fucked off with the whole like modern spirituality movements. It's because they're like, oh no, you can't be angry. We're not doing angry today. And it's like, come on, like that's a very natural core human emotion that has to be experienced. And very often, if we're not allowing that to come out, then that can quite easily manifest itself in physical disease. So the thing about having that feeling of anger, that's absolutely fine. Being able to communicate that is absolutely great. But when it manifests itself into aggression where some other party's feeling scared, or it's become insulting, it's personal attacks, or it's become physical, then that's not like, we can just, all of us can feel that, right? It just doesn't feel good, does it? So really what my aim for tonight's session, and this is something we're going to revisit as well, because I think this is so important. There's so many people reach out to me and tell me, they go, Danny, do you know what? I'm really struggling to speak to my other half, or I'm really struggling to speak to my son because he thinks I'm crazy. The amount of times I've had people say to me, oh, my kids think I'm nuts, or my partner thinks I'm nuts. And that's one of the most challenging things about the pandemic, is that it caused such a rift of division in people and relationships. And I still think we're many of us are still trying to build those bridges, you know. And I promise you, in my own evidence, experientially, with the relationships I'm discussing, with my mum, with my dad, with my step parents, I have seen incredible evolution of those relationships based on my, not them so much, but my way of inquiry with them and what we talk about. And everything's still on the table. I'm still talking. I'm still prodding, still poking, but I'm doing it in such a different way. And funnily enough, it's working. Some of the reactions I'm getting now and the questions that I'm being asked goes to show that there is elements of people who are starting to see a different perspective. Because look, I've said this from the beginning, right? We are fucking early, you know? And I know you don't feel early because like it's been going on 5 fucking years now. You're like, oh my God, he keeps saying we're early. How much fucking earlier have we got to be? But the truth is we are early. Because eventually, even the zombies are going to figure this out sooner or later, right? Even the worst case zombies are going to figure this out one way or the other. And you might think, well, that sounds very, very optimistic. But I don't think they're going to have a choice. I think things are going to get so fucking wacky that it's going to break the minds of so many people. And then often when that happens, there's a breakthrough. A different perspective is offered. So I would say, first and foremost, if you are in one of those relationships or you do have that situation, like for me personally, I feel like I'll never give in. I'm never going to go like, oh, do you know, if I love someone and I care about them, I'm never going to go like, oh, fuck it, I can't be bothered. I will always try to find a common ground. And that's one of the parts is when we try to do that, look how the communication changes. If you're not trying to wake someone up, you know, like I often, a lot of the time on social media, I play a role, right? Of course, it's still me. But there is a certain way that I communicate on social media, the way I express myself on social media is to shake people awake. And that's the only reason I'm on there. It's not, I don't get any gratification from going into these spaces. They're awful. You know, they're everything I'm against. However, I understand that's partly where the battlefield is now for consciousness. So, but in my real life, in my real relationships, I feel that like even if I've got a completely different opinion to someone, I am going to do my best to try to find common ground. And then imagine if like look how the energy changes straight away, right? If I'm not trying to wake someone up, I'm not going, oh, I need to wake them up. I need to tell them everything that I know because I'm up here and they're down there and I know more about the world than they do. And that might fucking well be. It probably is. If they're still walking around going, oh, no, I don't see nothing wrong with the skies, looks completely natural to me, then you can guarantee that you know fucking more than them. You know? If they're walking around and they're on their 8th booster, chances are you might know a bit more than them. But like, to point that out, where does that get us? Like, that's like, really, for me, that becomes sort of like a pissing contest of one-upmanship, which is never the route to be able to solidify meaningful relationships. So like I say, it's like my energy has changed from sort of like, I'm going to wake you up, you bastard, to like, there must be something we agree on. You know? And through that sort of like doing my best to try and explore a common ground with people, you'll find that many people have got a common ground with us. They just don't realise it. Because look at us all. We're humanitarians, aren't we? In the truest sense of the word. You know, like when people take the labels of conspiracy theorist and fucking amount of times I've been called right wing, like you're a right wing fanatic, and I'm like, what? Mate, fuck off. I mean, do I look right wing? But these labels, I think what it is, again, a lot of the time, they are used and weaponized to be able to shut down debate. And so even when if I honestly, one day I should go through it and just show the people like how many times I get slagged off on social media, private messages, like the unbelievable amount of fucking abuse. But it doesn't bother me. It doesn't put me off. And instead of getting into it like where I'm like, I want to tell you off, now I'm just having fun with it. All right. And I feel that once we're able to sort of see it as like, it doesn't have to be so heavy and so charged. It just needs to be that we can try to say like don't you want, like, for me a great question straight away is like do you not see any problems in the world? You know, do you not see like the world looks like it's in a really, really difficult place? There's a lot of suffering out there. And if you jump in on that level, on the level of empathy, most people can't disagree with that. Unless they've got their head stuck firmly up their arse, most people can't disagree with that. Because you've only got to walk down your local high street and you can see that the mental health is, I mean, it's outrageous now. What is actually on the street when there should have been funding for places that, you know, support these people in their well-being, in their mental health, and yet they're all just out on the street, and that's just turned the streets into like, it's an asylum, isn't it? It's a fucking live asylum. Homelessness, drug addiction, you know, that's just almost seen in a very like localized. I mean, it's everywhere, you know, it's literally everywhere. So one of the things is that we are very much emotive in these situations because we're very invested. You know, we give a fuck. That's the reason for me why I'm so charged a lot. But people go to me, why do you care? And I go, why don't you? How can you not fucking care? You know? Like the amount of times people, I go and do a talk and people go, Cool, you do swear a lot. And I go, that's your worry in the world right now. What's coming out of my fucking mouth? You're worried about my profanity. That's what you're fucking worried about. Jesus fucking Christ. So like there is a natural thing about us to be charged about all these situations because it is a very, very confronting and challenging time we've decided to incarnate. So tonight, really, for the next hour, what I want to do is I want to try to be able to invite people up to say what they're struggling with, yeah? Like what is something that you can say like this, do you know what, I'm having a real fucking hard time communicating with so-and-so. You haven't got to give their name. Or there's an example of something that you're stuck with and you'd like maybe a different perspective on how you feel you could approach that situation. Because for me, it's all about, I'm a very practical man. I always speak about my logic, right? And it's something I'm very, very, it's one of my great skills, is being able to just try to find the logic in a situation, right? And then from that space, how do we open that? How do we take away the emotion? How do we just like answer neutral in like questions that just offer a little bit of inquiry in people? And like I say, it's a very, very difficult thing because many of us are living in situations where it's very, very difficult to communicate with someone who we share a home with or we share a life with. I mean, I find it incredibly difficult to talk to my wife. You know, she's a really, really difficult lady. I'm only joking. It's because she's on the call. So I'd like, you know, if there's someone in the room right now who feels that, you know, I'm struggling with a certain aspect of the way that I can communicate, or I'm not being heard, or I don't feel like I'm able to say what I really feel in these given situations. And look, we've only got like an hour, so like, I'm not expecting to wave a fucking wand and everyone's going to turn into the best communicator in the world. However, I always feel that like there is something that we're able to offer, whether that would be a different perspective or a shared experience or something else. So if you don't know how this works, right, somewhere on your screen, I don't know what your devices you're using, but there's a little hand, right? And I always say this, it's like that, but it's not Heil Hitler, so don't be afraid of it. All right, it's very much just to put your hand up to say you want to join the conversation, and I'll bring you up onto the stage and we can have a chat. But I can also see, Helena, would you like to come up? Because I can see you talking in the chat about coming up, but you can't find the button. Do you want to come up? Do you want to pop up? Yeah, all right. Let's add. Is it Helena or Helena?
Thanks for asking. It's Helena.
Helena. All right. You got that. See, that's a nice bit of communication to start us off, isn't it?
Oh, sure. I have no problem communicating with anybody in this space. All
right. Good.
I made a note. Because you're talking about expressing yourself. Hello, everyone. By the way, this is my first time on the call.
Welcome.
I'm in the purification space too, so there might be some overlap with some people.
There often is.
So my whole life I've had no problem expressing myself. Like I've always just said it like it is in my mind. What I feel, it comes out, and that's that. And it's I would say overall it served me very well. Even if there was some discomfort, especially with my eldest sister, who's like 16 years my senior. And she always just had negative things to say about me and what she thought my life would become. She thought it would become nothing. And I wouldn't, I wasn't university material, all kinds of things like that. I ended up going to 3 different universities, almost in a way to spite her, which was, in retrospect, very silly thing to do.
Wonderful fuel, though.
Yeah, yeah. And I've done some very interesting things in my life, and I think it's because I didn't have any fear to express myself. Mm. And even just last night, I was on a call with a phone call with a good friend of mine. It was a belated birthday sort of conversation. And we're chatting away. And then I said, I'm going away on a trip and I don't want to do the biometrics and all this. And she said, oh, just do it, Helena. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not. And she said, oh, come on. If you want to get your Polish citizenship or whatever, which we're kind of in the process of doing, my kids want to have the dual citizenship. She said, you're going to have to do the biometrics. And I said, well, I'll cross that bridge when it comes, but I'm going away on a trip and I don't want to do the biometrics. And so, eventually I just said a few things like the reason why. And I just said, this is a slow motion, going ahead of, being completely tracked and monitored and controlled. And I said, I don't want that. And so I said, I know a little bit about this. I shouldn't have to do that. And then I brought up the fact that I might get a diplomatic passport because I'm in Alex's course. And then I said on it, it'll say that I'm exempt from vaccinations, from this and that. And then I could just see she got really quiet because her daughter was in the room, and her daughter's a fiance was in the room, and during the COVIDiacy, when I used to be on Facebook, I was posting all kinds of things, and I got into quite a discussion with her boyfriend at the time, and he was just saying how irresponsible I was, and I was very compassionate, I was very gentle, but I just kept at it, and I did that until I left Facebook because I thought, fuck it, I don't want to be on Facebook anymore. I don't even get to see the over the 1,000 people that I know on there because some algorithm decides what I can see.
Yeah.
And I went off of it and I tried to delete it. And by the way, it doesn't delete anything because when you go back to say go on Marketplace or something like that, everything is back up there again miraculously. So you can't even fucking delete it. Anyway, so he was there, and then my girlfriend was just saying, and she doesn't agree with me on vaccines or anything like that, or fluoride. I mean, it's just crazy, but we love each other. And when we get together, we have a nice meal and we hug and we sit close together, and it's so lovely. But she was saying, okay, Helen, I have to go now.
Bye.
Fuck. Okay, so, but I never stop saying, it doesn't matter where I am. I can be in a store, I can be on the street, I can be wherever. I bring something up if I have an opportunity. I just, my kids are like, Mom, don't, and I'm like, no, you can't stop me. You can't stop me. Okay, all this to say, and I spent too much time explaining all that.
No, not at all. Thank you for the.
I am being really challenged right now with getting this course with Alex. Okay, and I think maybe, Danny, I mentioned or I asked you how you're doing with it maybe a couple of years ago. I just can't seem to get myself off the ground with it. And I'm realizing that I have a fear of addressing authority. And I don't know whether that's my parents' background because they were Polish, and Poland has just been carved up and has just been all like... and my mother and her family were taken in the middle of the night by Russians and onto cattle trains through Siberia. My father was taken by the German, not the army, but into forced labor. And then eventually they asked, it was just hell there. And he was working as a stoker, and they came in one day and said, does anybody want to join the German army? Well, he didn't want to join the German army. He's Polish. But he could speak some German because he lived sort of near the border. So he and a friend said yes, just because they wanted to get out of the situation they were in. So both of my parents, and because I'm a generation, like a really young person from the Second World War generation, they both had a very bad experience, and I'm sure generations back maybe as well. And I wonder if that, has something to do with it. But I had no problem going up to a police officer, asking him a question. I've always loved police officers around me. They've always been lovely and I've only ever seen really good things around where I've grown up. And I've litigated for myself for 15 years with my children and getting child support and stuff like that. I didn't have a lawyer. I did everything myself. I was able to be in front of a court with my straw man name. But I had full confidence that there's no way that a judge couldn't see my point of view. But with this sovereignty thing, I'm like, there's a stranglehold. I don't know what it is. I know this is something that I want to do. I know that I have the capability of doing it because I was able to litigate for myself. I don't think it's maybe for everybody. I think you have to have it's not for the faint of heart, as people have been saying. But yeah, that's my challenges, is struggling, trying to, like I have all the paperwork ready, for example, to get a title of my home.
Yep.
I've got the paper. I can't go to the library or the post office to post it. I have to post it for like 30 days, and then I can send this paperwork off, and then I can start saying, no, I'm not paying property tax anymore. Why? Why can't I do it? And so that's one thing. I've had some help getting the paperwork ready, and I can't go.
It's not an administration thing.
No. It's me stepping out of the house with those papers and tacking it on the and telling the, library is a public place, and every library I've gone into just to inquire, can I put something up? They say, yeah, you have to bring it up to the desk. We have to approve it. It's a public place. They shouldn't have to approve it. And I feel like this is something that I should be able to speak up about, or just, I think I should actually not tell them exactly what I'm doing, but just say, I'm just interested in research, and I'm, curious about, how things were done in the past, or some geological thing. I'm doing a study. Yeah. But even with it, I've inquired a couple of times and saying that that's what I'm going to do, but I still can't bring in the papers.
Would you say that, like, does it feel that there's something about your peers, like is it something about like you what you're going to be, like, how people are going to see you?
No. I've never had that problem. I can just look at a person directly in the eye and say, no, I'm not having that. No, I don't agree with what you're saying. I know what I know, and that's that. I have this fear of people coming to the door and trying to take me away and putting me in jail. It's that.
Yeah. And
where is that coming from?
But do you think that's that hypothetical fear? Do you think that's something that has got value? Do you think that could happen?
Well, I have heard of some people that have spent time in jail. I know Cal Washington has been in jail. I don't know what for, but you do hear that people try to do things either with their car or whatever, saying I can drive, and they don't have a full handle on what's going on. And then they end up, they don't have enough of a grasp of what to do to administer their estate, and to be able to stand in the jurisdiction that we are actually in, which is the law of the land. And so they might end up having, to go to court. And I know that you just never want to do that. You always want to do it through paper. That's your court, is the paper. And you can do it with the paperwork. So I know all that, but I just...
But partly, I think that's one side of it. That's definitely going on. But I also feel that there's another side, is that, like, something comes from the inside out, right? So if you truly believe that, if you believe that, nah, they're taking the piss, I'm a fucking free woman, I am sovereign, and you believe that on a cellular level, then I feel that, like, we are transmitting this magnetic energy all the time, right, that we can't see. And I often feel that goes out into the ether, and that's removing a lot of the blockages that people I see. I have to be honest, a lot of the people who I know that have had trouble with these situations, there is a part of it that you could say that, like, yeah, they haven't got their paperwork in order and stuff on a sort of administration level, but there's always something about them that makes me feel like they're not ready, that there's something they don't believe entirely in themselves.
And so I don't know what that might be with me. I don't know. Like, for example, I have a neighbor who just goes and just starts cutting down trees that are on my property, like on the property line, but they're on my side, and he'll take branches off, big ones that are on my side. And it's like I've had starting to call the police. Then he started playing his radio loud. And anyway, so I've had to call the police several times. So the police come to the house and I'm talking to them. But the place that I'm now, I moved provinces and I didn't change my license plates. And my kids are saying, when are you going to do that? When are you going to do that? No, for 3 years, I had different license plates because I knew that if I'm driving around and I'm not speeding, there's no reason to stop me. They can't stop me because they're in a different jurisdiction. I knew this. So for 3 years, I drove around with these other, like, provincial plates, and nobody could stop me. They couldn't. I realized that they couldn't, I guessed, and I would think I'm correct, that they couldn't look up my plate and realize that anything about me because they didn't have the jurisdiction of the other province, which is its own corporation. Each one is its own corporation. So when the police would come, I had those other plates on my car, and my neighbor knew that I had these plates, and he would say things to the police. And it was almost, I never stopped. I just kept going. I thought, no, it's almost as though my car was invisible. The police never said anything to me. And they were at my house.
So what do you think it is then? Do you feel, are you scared of stepping into that true power?
No, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. There's a couple things. I think somebody's going to come to my door and I'm not sure how I'm going to handle myself.
Mm.
Even though I might have I feel, I think I listened to your call about about Alex. He did the 20-minute presentation,
Mm.
and someone said, oh shoot, I just lost it. I just lost it. And you said this about your partner, that I need to know everything. I feel like I need to know everything so that I'm ready, when maybe I don't really, maybe I'm good enough if I get the paperwork done and I say, look, this is what the paperwork is. And I have notice on my house saying, actually, you don't have a jurisdiction to even be here or talk to me unless I agree with that. And I can charge you for, using my name or whatever. I think I could do that.
And do you think you could do it in the way that you're speaking to me now, that is very sort of calm and it's very relaxed? Could you do it in that way so that when the situation arrives that you're not charged emotionally, and then often that can send us to a different place, that we're not communicating from a calm place, and it's almost out of a place of fear or anger, which is never conducive to being transparent in communication?
I have a fear of the unknown. That is something that I do know. So that when actually something is actually in front of me, I don't have a problem dealing with it at all. So there's the fear of the unknown. And then, which in so many cases, I notice when something actually does happen, I don't have a problem with it at all. And then also, I just feel so alone and isolated in this. I don't feel there are a lot of people in Canada that are necessarily doing it and that I can reach out to and ask questions about. And there are some differences within the country about, what paperwork you're looking for. And I just want to be able to do it with somebody. So I really like the idea of having people get together. But I don't know if this is really what you wanted to talk about today.
No, but it's something we've been talking about behind the scenes since we had even before we had our call on Alex's class. And of course, like, a study group is definitely one, but like Sue's just put it in the chat. Actually, it was something that we've talked about is within certain situations to create sort of like a role play. So there is sort of like a script that we're practicing this stuff. So I mean, look, the thing is that we're doing it through these machines, right? Which is never, for me, is never exact, because there's a lot of other stuff going on when we're in the physical arena together. But I think it does allow us to be able to start to become familiar with that sort of language, and then familiar with having someone ask us certain questions and be able to respond with from the stuff that we've learned. So I think it is very valuable, and I feel it's, for yourself, feels to me like many of us, it's just a case of becoming even more and more confident in how in what we know and how we transmit that and how we translate that and how we communicate that to people. And I think once we're doing that regularly, and I think it's going to get a lot more regular, let me be honest. But when we're doing that regularly, I think then there's going to be a feeling of like a breakthrough. Right, I get it now. Okay, you just cannot fuck with me anymore. All right. And I get the feeling when I talk to Alex is that he's in that place. Alex is like, he doesn't feel, he's not someone who feels any kind of fear about the situation. He's very much like, yeah, I'm excited about putting you lot in your place. And I feel that would be the right energy to come from, is that you're not at all terrified. You're actually thinking, right, I'm going to educate these fuckers. But doing it in a way that we're not goading them. We're doing it in a calm and a compassionate way. But we are.
I'm actually looking forward to being able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Instead of seeing it as something that we're like, oh my God, I'm terrified by that, is seeing it as something like, do you know what? This is going to be a really wonderful moment for me to be able to gain even more self-empowerment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that too. I like the idea of role playing. I think that's fantastic. Anyway, I feel like I've taken up too much time.
Yeah, I mean, look, I
speak.
would. I think Hannah is speaking to several people who have shown interest in a study group and how we would go about helping with that and facilitating it in whatever way we can. I don't know what that looks like yet because I'm still working through the first parts of the course again myself. So yeah, we'll be in touch, I guess, with everyone when the time's right. There was another lady. Thank you, Helena, darling. There was another lady who put her hand up, and she's gone again now. It was Sarah. Oh, there you go. She's using her actual hand. Look at that. There we go. I just need to remove this lady, and voila. Hello.
I was just, hi. I was just gonna. I just had a feeling, thought. I don't know what it was. Because in the beginning, when oh my God, what's her name? You've gone. Cat. Ooh, she went. What was her name? I can't remember now.
Helena.
Anyway, when she was talking, you were Helena. You were talking about your Polish family, and people being, taken away in the middle of the night, and I would have thought that would probably impact you somehow about speaking out to authority because you might get taken away in the night. And because you're in the purification space, I was just wondering whether you had done any kind of clearing of that, that sort of terrifying energy that would have been around, and maybe not even just your family, would have been a whole, would have been in Poland big time. I've got a friend whose family were all taken to Auschwitz in the middle of the night from Poland. And so, yeah, that was just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a valid point, right? Because if something's going on, I think in a lot of us where that's going, like we're feeling those feelings of disempowerment or maybe tongue-tied. I feel that's probably been going on for generations, right? And where we don't know about there's a certain ancestral pattern or program that is within our line, and somehow we are still not being able to break through that. But this is the thing, right? This is the most important thing, is that by confronting this stuff, like these so-called or self-styled or labeled weaknesses, by confronting them and using that invitation for us to get a little bit better informed and a little bit more empowered, then I think we actually start to repair some of that, them ancestral programs and lines. So it's a really valid point there, Sarah. Thank you for bringing that up. Kathleen, is that you? Your hand up there?
Yes, it is. Thanks.
Hey.
Luckily my brothers and sisters, because I have a larger family that took the shots and have a different point of view, have been pretty civil about it. We still hang out. We still do okay. The most challenging thing for me, as I mentioned in the chat, has been that my son, who's a resident psych doctor, and his wife are now just barely pregnant, 9 weeks. And they're very excited, but I know, they know my point of view, but they're doing like whatever the pediatrician recommends. We're doing all the shots kind of thing. Right. And I get that. I get that I just have to honor their choice as parents, but it's more this thing of like, they don't live close to me. So I've been able to kind of have my space energetically from their point of view, but they're going to want my support with the child. And I would love to support with that child if they go full term and it all works out that way. Right. But that balance between how you also like take care of yourself in that scenario and like, yeah, I mean, there's not much I can say, because even if I talk to them about informed consent, they're like, we're not interested. We're just going to follow our pediatrician's recommendations. Like, how do you balance like taking care of yourself and being able to communicate something, you know what I mean?
Firstly, right, if is there already sort of like there's been a spoken request that you're going to take a big part in this child's life?
Yes, they have asked me to support when they have children.
Yeah. So then for me straight away, that my feeling straight away would be that, well, then if you want me to be part of the child's life, then I'd like to be heard. You know, I'd like to feel recognised in some of my concerns that are incredibly valid to me, and although they might not be to you, I
Yes.
feel that if we're going to do this together, and this is something that you want me to be part of, then I feel that at the very least we need to have a very candid, open, and respectful conversation.
Yes. Okay.
That's how I would feel, right? I would feel like, listen, don't expect me to be wiping this kid's ass if you're not ever gonna fucking never ever offer my, like, how I feel about certain things.
Right. Yeah. I guess I've come from this, like, okay, I'm going to, like, I need to keep quiet because otherwise they will kind of shut me out and I won't be a part of the child's life. But I have to be willing to have that happen, I guess.
Well, I mean, do you know like how many times I've spoken to people in this exact situation, and it's usually sort of like a mother or father who is now seeing their children have children, and they're going, oh my God, they're going to go down the traditional route, and we shouldn't even call it traditional route. It's the fucking
Barbaric route.
inverted,
Yes. Yeah.
It's a very, very scary consideration that you will be shut out, very, very scary.
Yeah.
But look, I would say, like, and I'm just going to be very honest, right? Is that on Thursday evening, Thursday afternoon, I spoke to my mum, and she told me that she's had some health issues, and she's been dealing with cancer for the last 8 or 9 years. And it's a rare blood cancer called thrombocythemia, where she has an irregular platelet count. So she has to have regular blood tests to make sure that a platelet count's not too high or too low, because that can have severe implications. And, like, I feel that there's many ways that cancer could be treated. But of course, she's gone to very, very mainstream hematologists and oncologists, and they only know one thing, right? They know that they're giving chemotherapy.
Yes.
So I know that is attacking my mum on a cellular level. It's actually destroying her body in some ways, and definitely her immune system. And like, I would love to be able to offer some alternative things. And this is 8 years, 9 years we've been dealing with this situation, right? And the first time it ever came up, I was much more hard and aggressive and going, no, you have to do this and you have to do that, they're going to kill you. And it was all this sort of language that I don't think was very it wasn't very wise at the time. But now, like, for me personally, like, I feel like I've made my peace with it, is why I'm sharing this example. Because, like, I know that whatever I send her, whatever I tell her, I know that, like, most of it is not gonna be used, or it's not even gonna be examined. So I know that she holds her specialists. I know she holds them in high regard, and whatever they direct, she's going to follow. So for me, it's like a case of, like, well, like, I'm still going to, offer certain things that I feel might be complementary to her lifestyle. However, like, in the sense of, like, sort of being, like, saying, like, no, you can't do, like, you shouldn't do this, or, for me, it just feels like it's not my responsibility,
Yeah.
She's made her choice, and I have to find some kind of I have to find some respect for that in me, like, even if it's completely against how I feel.
Yeah, I've already been through that with my daughter-in-law, because she had a tumor removed and lost an ovary because of cancer, right? And I, again, I couldn't really offer very much there, so it's much more. Yeah, in the end, I guess I'm going to kind of process my fears about totally losing connection with a possible grandchild, right? Yeah. So I'll continue on that, because I do feel like what we were talking about with the last woman, is that processing this stuff energetically is really helpful to keep me in a vulnerable state. But I do like that idea of even just starting with, hey, if I'm going to care for this child, and I'm going to be, like, caring about this child, right? Yeah. Instead of removing myself, then I just need to let you know a couple of things, and then from there, just kind of continue to let it go, because all the logical stuff, like, they're both trained in the medical world, but they don't want to they don't want any informed consent. It's just like, doesn't make sense, right? But you can't go there. You just have to go to like process your own emotions about it and then be vulnerable and then make a choice. Because it might actually be that I need to be willing to not be a part of this child's life if it gets to that point,
I feel like the only way you can make that decision is once everyone has been heard, right? And you
Yeah.
really feel into like how does that feel like it's going to play out? Like, I mean, if all of a sudden they say that, we don't want you to have any input at all, we don't want you to be able to have any like, you're not to mention medical stuff, you're not meant to mention vaccines, you're not meant to mention diet. It's just like, well, where what am I allowed to say then? Like, because to me then that's a massive suppression of my, like, just who I am, right? So
Yeah.
I would love to be able, as long as of course, like we said at the beginning of the call, is that as long as it's been delivered in a calm and compassionate way, then everything should be on the table. And to say that it shouldn't be, then there's a reason. There's obviously some kind of internal fucking conflict going on in people that they don't want to be triggered by like alternative information. So I just feel it's a very complicated situation, but it's one that like I think, Kathleen, is that like the more vulnerable and in speaking from the heart we are, and to say like what our genuine fears and our genuine sadness is about this situation. I think once we've said that, then I feel that like there's a real opportunity to meet in a common ground, and then everyone starts to feel a little bit more recognized.
Yeah, makes sense. One other thing, not related to this at all, as you've probably heard, and I'm part of an international tribe where this is the predominant belief, that there might be a big split going on the planet where a bunch of people are choosing. Well, no, I mean, like, some people are choosing to stay in the light dark, and they're choosing to never wake up, and then some are choosing a different direction. It's almost like we're going to move into two different dimensions.
Oh, yeah.
Have you considered that at all? Or?
Absolutely. And sometimes what I feel is that I'm already in the positive timeline, but I feel like I'm fishing. And so I sit on my little positive bank by the river, and I can fish into the other pool, and I can pull people out.
Okay.
So I feels like a little bit of a game for me, is that like I'm doing a bit of fishing, trying to drag some sleepy souls back to reality.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Thanks. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything.
Cheers, my dear.
Yep.
Yep. Rachel, you had your hand up, didn't you?
I did.
Well, listen, you're part of our team, right? You can't just come up here and talk to me. You get to talk to me all the time.
I didn't have anything planned. It was actually in response to Kathleen there, but I think she sort of answered what I was going to suggest. It was speaking from my own experience. I was
going to say, you've got a similar situation, haven't you?
Yeah. So if it's any help, Kathleen, it may not be, but you sort of answered it anyway. So my son and daughter-in-law were at the point of deciding on vaccination for their child. And my son was very against vaccination. He's very, very awake and aware. But his partner was teetering. The good thing was, obviously, it's slightly different in the fact that obviously one of the couple was already sort of had the knowledge. But what he actually reached out and he said, I don't really know how to approach it with his partner. And I said, well, he asked my opinion. He asked what information and I had. And I just recommended, I was just actually trying to find the book as you were talking, Kathleen, but I couldn't find the book. I'm sure you'll be able to find lots of information. But what I actually recommended a book about the outcomes of vaccination, which then gave them the quiet time to read the book and have the discussion and then make an informed decision. And I was just guessing that your son and his wife, because they're academic, you'd think that they would perhaps go down that route of at least.
I wish, but it's almost like they have their heels dug in the opposite way, where it's just like, no, it's almost like they have like plexiglass around them where it's just like no information. Like I was just asking about informed consent last time I talked to my daughter-in-law. I'm like, do you want any informed consent information about vaccines? It's like, no, 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 so if I ever get a sense, like I said, by being vulnerable and saying, hey, if I'm going to be caring for this child, then maybe again there'll be some kind of bridge there. But right now it's almost like they have built a wall saying, please don't give us any information,
So
because of
you wouldn't
their
feel
fear.
comfortable.
Yeah.
You wouldn't feel comfortable in sort of sending a little link to something or sending.
I have done all that kind of stuff, but if you can tell me the name of the book, that'd be great. I have done that kind of thing, but it's almost always like that's misinformation. That blah blah blah.
Even when it comes from doctors who have high regard from as well, really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
If there might be one like magical thing that clicks that, but yeah, I could say this is peer reviewed. This is this. I like try to use all their words, but it's still not. It's still hitting this like plexiglass of fear. We're like, we can't look there. We can't look there.
The only thing I would say is there's a point, isn't there? Because I struggle with things like that because I like to have, well, let's call it an element of support, but also sort of control over that because deeply how important health is to your children and to your grandchildren. So I came to a point, again, from my experience, I won't rabbit on anymore, but I just left it there. I left it to resonate. And it may be that if you can sort of think around it, I'm sure you've probably thought of everything, but there is a point where you just go, I've got to let this be, and I've got to hope and pray that they make the right decision. And even if they don't, that the child will be fine. And there are ways of detoxing children and all of that above.
Yeah, I mean, you could just
otherwise
it's
quite
like
quite destructive.
The nan who's just giving the kid like fucking heavy metal detox smoothie before he comes around.
I have.
Yes, I've already thought about that. It's like this child isn't even born yet. This child is only 9 weeks old, and I'm going like, okay, how can I detox them from this? And I'm just like, Kathleen, you don't even know if the baby's going to make it to full term, but it's just the way that we are these days, right? Where you're just like, okay,
and that's the greatest thing.
Not be attached and just be present and energetically. I keep sending love to the little being, but that baby chose those parents, right? And I guess but the baby also chose me as one of the grandmas. So it's like, hey,
yeah, you got.
Don't underestimate your power, Kathleen.
Exactly.
Us nannies are.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I'll shut up now.
Thank you, Rachel. I really appreciate you
I'll see if I can find that book.
Thanks, Rachel.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, look, do you know what the thing for me is that like the overriding thing, bigger than, more powerful than vaccinations, more powerful than fucking medicalizations, more powerful than doctors, more powerful than all of the fucking illusion and hypnotism is love. And that's why we're having this conversation right now, right? Because we're talking about people we love. We're talking about like our love for humanity. We're talking about our love for our sons and our daughters and our mums and our dads. To me, that is much more powerful than any of these other variables. And that's not to deduct from them, but it's just to remember, like, if we're delivering this stuff from a place of love, who's to know how many blocked ears it can make its way through? Who's to know that, like, love is not the thing that makes people see again? And I think very often, what we've done is because of all our angst and our pain and all the stuff that we carry with us because of these decisions. Love's been forgotten somewhere. We've gone into this mental cognitive approach. What about feeling? What about heart? What about wearing your heart on your sleeve and just saying, you know what, I'm fucking heartbroken here. I'm really heartbroken and I really want to be heard. So I feel like that is for me is always a very, very important approach, is just to remember why. What is the why that we even give a fuck in the first place? It's because we love. And that's incredibly powerful. All right, ladies, listen, I'm going to get a fella up here now because you lot have been rabbiting on. Ryan, you got to put your video on though, mate. You can't come up here and not have your video on. Where are you? How do I can't even make you. You need to start your video for me to get you up. Can you hear me, Ryan? Ryan. Somewhere on your screen, there's going to be a little button which says video, yeah? Or like a picture. There you go. There
we go.
Right, hold on a minute. That had spotlight. That's one of the prerequisites of joining the space. When you're in the audience, it's fine, but when you come up on the stage, I've got to see who I'm talking to. Otherwise, it's just bizarre.
You hear me?
How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. How are you?
Are you sure?
I'm going through a bit of a challenging time at the moment, to be honest. But yeah, I'm okay.
All right, cool. Tell us what your challenging time is. I just saw a glimpse of it in the message.
So I've been in an emotional affair with a lady at work, and it's sort of come to fruition, and my partner's found out about it, and it's been going on for some time now, to be honest with you. But it's really starting to affect us, and I'm grateful in that she's staying with me. But it's gotten to a stage where it's becoming a big burden to carry, and I have no outlet or anyone to speak to, or just to try and understand why I behaved in that way, in that manner. And I just wanted to get some advice and hopefully move forward from this, but in the same time help her move forward, most importantly. So that's where I'm at.
Well, it's a difficult situation, mate, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, look, I've got a very honest opinion straight away. Is that like I know when you're in a relationship with someone and you have an affair, like for me personally, is that like there's never no reason for that. You know, I'm not saying that justifies the action because I don't think there is any justification. I think if you're truly, you know, you are in an exclusive relationship with someone, and you're both aware of that, and that is the deal, then to break that word, that contract you've got together, to me that's not fair, right? And I think you would agree with that as well. However, what pushes people into sort of that situation in the first place is usually that there's some kind of disconnection or blockage or breakdown in that existing relationship for them to even go to that place in the first place. And if you're saying that relation, like the affair has gone on for a long time, you know, like would you say that it's fair to say that within your relationship with your partner, there is something misfiring, there is something that is not complete?
I believe so. I mean, we have kids, and I think when you have kids, it makes it a bit more challenging in that your focus and energy goes into them.
Yeah, of course.
And you kind of forget about each other, and it's almost as if you're two passing ships in the night. So
listen, I know I've got 3 kids under 8 years old. You know myself. You know, I know, and it takes incredible investment in a relationship. You know.
Yeah. So I think.
What's the situation then? Like what like the affair's over.
It is over. Yes.
Yeah.
It's obviously it's affected her in a way that it's just got into a mental state where she is constantly questioning and just trying to dig deeper and deeper, and it's becoming traumatic for her as well. And that it's a constant. Every moment there's always something that's popping up, and it's just consuming her and me as well. So it's just I don't know how to manage the situation.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
Did you love her?
I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are you in love with her?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So what would you, if you could just summarize, like why did you feel the need to find sort of, was it excitement? Was it attention?
I think it was attention and just that external validation.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that was missing coming from, having kids. You tend to, as I said, you drop off and you forget about each other. So that's, I almost felt like I was in a trance, I wasn't myself, and it consumed me. And, by being found out, it's awakened me to realize that what I really want moving forward in my life. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
And how long ago did this come out that your wife found out?
About 6 months ago.
Oh, right. So it's been a while.
It has, yes.
And have you seen any sort of evolution in the way that are things getting any better, or is it still stagnated?
I think it is still stagnated. It's just, I think I didn't provide her with the full story just because I was trying to protect her.
Right.
So I'd give her bits and bobs of what happened. And as time has gone on, so more and more of the truth has come out. And that's affected things. So I think it's the betrayal, the trust issue, the lying. It's all coming to pop its head up, and that's affecting how we sort of move forward on a day-to-day basis.
Have you ever considered like a third party?
We're currently looking at that option, yes. So that's something we're looking at. But it's just finding the right person, someone that you can resonate with, and get someone to really understand the situation and help us move forward together.
Well, I mean, there's something I've got experience with. So if there's, if you wanted to take this into a personal session, I'd be happy to do that as well.
Yeah, I'd love that opportunity. I really appreciate that. Absolutely.
Because I think the thing is, mate, is that look, like if you're very honest that you fucked up, yeah, that's what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah, I take full accountability for my actions.
Yeah. I mean, because the thing for me is that like this is like we're men, right? There's something about men, and I'll just be very blunt about this. Is that like I feel personally, and maybe I don't talk for all men, but I feel that I'm going to be very honest about how my system works. Is that like I require a certain amount of attention and intimacy, and I want to feel loved, and I want to feel recognized. And I know a lot of that stuff's got to come from within, but there's also when you're living with someone and you're in a relationship, you need to, for me, like where there needs to be a reciprocal transaction of that, right? That to me is what being in love is that there's a consistent feeling of like you're being able to be intimate and you're being able to show affection to one another. And I think when that drops off, then there's quite easily you can look elsewhere outside of your relationship to be able to fill that void, and like again, that doesn't take any accountability away from you, because like it's yourself, mate. It's like it's not a good thing, is it? You're a fucking you've got kids and you've got a wife, and you like we really, as much as we might have these feelings of like wanting to express ourselves in a intimate way with someone. Like we can't fall for that. You know what I mean? We have to stay we've given our word to something. And of course, like relationships might break down, and that's understandable. That happens. But then we need to communicate that as well, don't we? Like, listen, I can't be in this relationship anymore because I X, Y, Z. So like, how, like does your wife, does she feel like she wants to continue this relationship? Does she want to continue investing in you and investing in your marriage and your life together?
She does. I mean, it changes from moment to moment, really. She has days where she's like, I want this, because there's some form of fire still in this relationship, and it's worth fighting for. We've been together for 25 years. So I don't think we want to give up on that, but there's days where it gets to a stage where we're like, do we want to continue in this way? Is it something we want to move forward with? To be feeling like we are feeling? So it changes from day to day, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I would say, look, personally speaking, it feels like you've reached a situation where there's almost like it requires now another perspective. It requires a third party. And the reason I say that is because why that's so beneficial is because there's someone who is completely neutral and is able to offer a perspective where both parties can be able to see that there is a joint accountability somewhere, right? That doesn't take anything away from the mistake you've made, right? I'm not trying to relieve you of that.
Sure. Yeah.
However, there has to be on an energetic relationship based accountability, there's something misfired before that, isn't there? You know,
Yeah.
I personally don't believe, like, someone who's chosen to be with someone and has kids with someone, I don't believe they just go off and they start having an affairs unless they're you know, stupid. I think that's born from a feelings of isolation. It's born from feelings of loneliness, from not having any intimacy. Like, we're incredibly social beings, you know. And I think a lot of the time with men, something that is not often attributed to us is that we love intimacy and affection, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel that if that's missing in our lives, then I can understand why someone would look for that in an external way. So I mean, like, the advice, my advice would be is to find a mediator, to find someone who you feel that you and your wife can both connect with and have a conversation, is what I would say.
Cool.
Because
yeah,
I feel like me trying to give you advice right now to say to your wife, like, I don't think that's fair, because I don't know her and I don't really have a full understanding of the situation. But I do feel for you, and I empathise for you, like what you like, and honestly, how fucking courageous to come into a room full of people and just be honest like that. That's an incredible fucking feat. There's not many men out there who would do that, you know. So straight away you've gone right up there in my estimations. You know, so I feel that's an incredible start, and to be able to do that, mate, is like a powerful thing, and you should be proud of that. And look, life doesn't, like, our actions in life, they don't dictate our character, Ryan. That doesn't mean just because you've done that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean just because you've made a mistake that you don't deserve love, or you don't deserve a second chance. It doesn't mean any of that, mate. You know, to be able to take ownership of our mistakes in our life, that makes a man even more of a man.
Cool.
You know, there's a road back, brother. There is definitely a road back, you know, and I really hope you and your wife can find the space to be able to explore that together. And like I say, if you feel that you would like me to chat to you both, then I'm happy to do so.
Absolutely, I'd love for you to be the mediator. Absolutely.
Do you have a way of contacting me?
I've got. I'm on the emailing list. So I mean, I suppose I could get a hold of you via the free.
Yeah, you can just send an email into us, and I'll get some myself or my wife will pick it up, and I'll get back to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Do you know what? I mean, I know you said this wasn't relevant, but this is it, mate. This is what this entire space is about. It's about people being able to come up and confront stuff that is bothering them. That's it in a nutshell, right? And so I really appreciate you having the guts to do that, mate. I really do.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Top man, Ryan.
Thanks, everyone.
Wow. Do you know what? There's like all these women, and then a man comes along, and he just, you know, he does something that that's very, very powerful. That's not deducting from any of you ladies at all, right? But what I'm saying is that one of the things that I've always wanted so badly is because, like, I'm a man, right? I can connect with the masculine energy very, very well, and I think men respect me because I am a man's man, and I'm also someone who's able to speak very, very, very effortlessly from my heart. You know, I'm a big, sensitive fucking fluffball when I'm around my kids and around my wife and around situations like that. I genuinely feel for that, man. I really, really do. And to be able to have someone come up and be able to say that, like, that's really touching, really, really touching, and very, very powerful for everyone else to realise as well. Because, listen, we all make mistakes, don't we? Do you know what I mean? Like, in loads of different things. Do you know what my kids say to me? They go to, I talk to them sometimes about things, and they go to me sometimes, they go, Papa, how do you know all this stuff? And I say, do you know why I know all this stuff? Because I've made so many fucking mistakes. I spent my entire life, and I was making mistakes when kids were supposed to be in school and meant to be doing things. I was getting put through open windows and being part of burglaries at the age of 6. You know, like, I've the mistakes I've made, I could fill a fucking library with. And that is why I believe I'm in such a good position to offer advice to people, because there's not much I haven't done. There's not much I haven't been through. And I feel that one of the things is that I really, really value in people is to be able to hold your hands up and just say, do you know what? I fucked up. And often there is incredible energetic value in that as well, right? Being able to put your hands up and just say, do you know what? This is something I'm not proud of. This is not my best work. I actually find sorry to be an incredibly powerful word. As long as it's as long as it's not a throwaway comment. It's something that we truly mean, and it's something we truly feel. So communication, very, very often I feel with it is that being able to know ourselves, being able to be gentle with ourselves, being able to love ourselves, to feel that we're whole and we're complete. Very often those feelings are what generates our voice, our true voice. So as always, and I come back to this all the time, right? And I'm going to continue to come back to this because this is my bread and butter. It's self-love. That's the answer. Very often what happens in the universe is that we, through spiritual messaging, through lots of our own experiences, we're feeling, or we're taught that love is out there, and our universe is love and we are love. And I get that. And I truly believe that. And you've heard me speak of it. However, if we're talking about ourselves as an electromagnetic field, which we are, then we have to magnetize that love to us. That starts from the inside. That starts from us, all of us, everyone in this call, being a bit kinder to themselves, being a bit more gentle, being a bit less judgmental, less critical. Even you, Ryan. The point is that we're fallible, right? That's the beauty about life. That's the beauty about this earthly experience, is that none of us are perfect. We're perfectly imperfected. And we have to remind ourselves that all the time, right? And if you forget, don't worry, because I'll remind you. This life, the journey of this life, is about becoming love. Full-bodied, true, physicalized, materialized love. The way to do that is to feed it from the inside until it gets so bright it breaks out of you. And then the whole world can feel it. And then it has a ripple effect. That's how we change the world. That's the true revolution of our time. It's not from running around with pitchforks and blaming politicians they're all just fucking actors anyway. It's all just theatre. And what they're doing, every single part of it, every component, every facet of it, is to distract us. Distract us from what? Ourselves. Because when we all start, every single one of us, when we all start to transmit that feeling of love throughout the world, doing it in a way that we're not getting pulled into the division and the hate and the blame, and we're just feeling it from the inside out, the world has to change. Reality shifts through self-love. And I know that might sound far out, but it's the truth. Because what happens is we feel good about ourselves from the inside, right? And it becomes impenetrable. We feel good and we take that feeling out into the world, and the world changes through us, not the other way around. And the funny thing is, right, is that we often talk about like religions, and people go to they swarm to religions because they're looking for protection, they're looking for connection. The armor of God is love. We become impenetrable once we have created, once we've evoked this feeling of love from the inside out. So there's a little bit of homework this week. You've got to love yourselves. You have to. And what I would say is, what's stopping you? All right. Thank you for all coming along to this night's MYGA session even. And we'll see you next week, I guess. Much love.